Have you ever admired someone for how effortlessly they speak up? How they take space, not just physically, but emotionally? And thought to yourself, I wish I had that kind of presence. But then, just as quickly dismissed it with, yeah, but I'm not built like that. Not bold enough, not confident enough, not that type of person. If you've ever felt like some qualities just aren't in your DNA, like confidence, clarity, or leadership are for other people, this episode is for you. Because what if those things you admire in others aren't qualities they were born with, but strengths they trained for through fear, failure, and repetition? Let me tell you about Jonah. Jonah wasn't loud, he wasn't bold, he was precise, quiet. He worked behind the scenes, dependable, diligent, invisible. At meetings, he'd sit 2 seats away from the center, close enough to hear everything, far enough not to be expected to speak. And truthfully, that felt safe, but safe started to feel small. One afternoon, Jonah watched a teammate, someone no more experienced than him, lead a brainstorming session. She was confident. She made space for silence, didn't rush to fill it. Her ideas landed. People listened. Jonah didn't feel envy, he felt grief, not because he wanted her spotlight, but because something in him whispered, you could do that if you believed you could. That was the call. But the next day, he ignored it, shrugged it off like a coat that didn't quite fit. That's just not who I am, he told himself. She's a natural. I'm not built like that. So he stayed in his lane, until something small cracked the armor. It was a journal prompt in a newsletter he barely remembered subscribing to. A single line bolded at the top of the email, "Every strength you admire is just a skill you haven't trained yet." He reread it twice, and it stayed with him. He didn't believe it, not fully, but it tugged at something deeper than logic. The next Monday, Jonah made a quiet promise, nothing loud, nothing grand, just speak once in the next team meeting. That was his first threshold. It was clumsy. His voice shook. He forgot half of what he wanted to say. But he said something, and then he wrote it down, that night, in the same notebook where he'd scribbled the quote, "Spoke up once, didn't die." It became a private ritual. One small action, one reflection, one honest line. But strength doesn't grow in a straight line. There were days Jonah backslid, meetings where he stayed silent, moments when his inner critic was louder than the room. And still, he kept showing up. Not to impress others, to prove to himself that maybe, just maybe, confidence could be built. A few weeks later, he took on a small project, just a 2-person task force. But he led it, coordinated timelines, made decisions, took feedback. It scared him, but it fit, like a jacket that used to be too big but suddenly felt tailored. Then came the inmost cave. His manager asked him to present their findings to the senior team. His gut reaction? Nope, can't, not me. But something else, smaller, steadier, said, "What if this is the fire you need to walk through?" He prepared, practiced in the mirror, practiced with his reflection, with his doubt, with his fear. And then he did it, not flawlessly, but fully. And when it was done, no one clapped, but someone nodded and someone asked a question and someone else said, "That was clear, thanks, Jonah." That night, he wrote in his notebook, "Confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you earn by acting before you feel ready." And that became his elixir. Because Jonah didn't become the loudest in the room. He didn't suddenly crave the spotlight, but he became someone who no longer waited to feel confident to act confident. He built the muscle. Repetition, challenge, reflection. He surrounded himself with people who stretched him. He journaled every single win, even if it was just a quiet moment of courage. Weeks turned into a rhythm. And then, one day, someone new joined the team. Timid, soft-spoken, avoiding eye contact, and Jonah, the old Jonah, noticed and invited him into a conversation. He didn't give advice, he didn't preach, he just asked, "What's one thing you want to get better at this month?" That was the final test, not the presentation, not the performance, but the moment he became a mirror for someone else. Because when you carry the elixir, You don't just change your story, you give others permission to rewrite theirs. So let me ask you again, gently this time. What's one strength you've told yourself you'll never have? What if that story wasn't true? And what if all it takes is a single line in a notebook? A single moment of action, shaky, unready, but yours. Maybe, just maybe. The strength you want isn't something you're born with, it's something you build.